Hi, thanks for coming to our webinar. My name is Anam. We'll do formal introductions in a little bit, but I wanted to give people a few minutes to just log in and get settled. In the meantime, my colleague Richard is going to talk about Localytics. Then we'll get started.
Thank you, Anum. As Anum mentioned, my name is Richard Scrow, and we'll do formal introductions in a little bit. Folks, you're here today to learn about the do's and don'ts of stellar push and in-app marketing campaigns. At Localytics, we provide functionality to do both push and in-app messaging campaigns, but there's much more than the marketing automation. We have a rich foundation of mobile analytics, approaching the problem from a mobile first perspective and working with the world's leading brands like the New York Times, eBay, and Microsoft, and helping those customers get up to speed on understanding what their users are up to, and then also helping them influence and adjust and tweak that user behavior based on different important pieces of functionality they want to introduce those folks to. And some of the ways that they go about that, we'll certainly hit on some use cases today that are derived from our work with that customer base. But we'll be focusing again today on some of the great push and in-app marketing stories that we have to tell.
Okay, so let's dive right into it. So again, my name is Anam. I'm the content marketing specialist at Localytics. I write for our blog a lot and I contribute to our company's thought leadership. My Twitter handle is at Anam Munir, and my fun fact is that I'm actually Canadian.
And this is Richard Scrow. Some of you may have clicked on my link on the Localytics homepage. I'm an app marketing expert. I manage the sales engineering team here at Localytics. I've been here for a very long time. I feel like if I stay here any longer, I'll turn into either an SDK or a piece of furniture. My fun fact is actually just that right before this meeting, Anum told me I had been pronouncing her name wrong for the entire time that I've known her.
Oh.
And you can follow along at Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at SoScrow. And then for any questions that you folks may have about the webinar or anything that we're talking about, we're going to take all questions at the end. But throughout the presentation, you can go ahead and put those up on Twitter at #AppAnswers. If you run into any technical difficulties with the webinar, you can use the webinar's chat interface, and our moderator will help troubleshoot those issues. So with that, I hope everybody's having a good morning, afternoon, evening, or late night. Thank you for sharing some time with us, and we're going to jump right into what we're going to cover today. So today we've got a few different things we'd like to cover. First, we're going to set the stage and talk high level about some information about mobile engagement. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the best practices of push and in-app messaging. We'll walk through some stellar examples, and these aren't just okay examples or good examples. These are really marquee examples. We'll spend a little bit of time just sharing some thoughts on the future of engagement, and then we'll wrap with some key takeaways, next steps, and as we said, questions and answers. So jumping right in, some high-level information about mobile engagement. So around 800 apps are downloaded every second. And there's about 4 billion, or there will be about 4 billion mobile app users in 2017. But wait, only 20% of apps are used only once. So what are we going to do? We could just sit there and let that happen, or we could start to explore some of the different mobile engagement strategies. And that's what we're going to cover today. Mobile engagement helps users continually return to your app. It also helps users that may have used the app once or twice come and become power users. It may also help users who've used your app and maybe haven't taken advantage of some great functionality that you provide. Take advantage of that functionality. And there's a couple different strategies, and we're going to spend the majority of our time today talking about push and in-app messaging. And just to set the stage, I'm sure folks are familiar with some of these concepts, but we want to level set at the start here. Push messages are things that are delivered to your home screen outside of your app. I think most apps have these nowadays, and the example I always like to give is when somebody starts a new conversation with you on Facebook, oftentimes that's when you get a push notification. Now these drive attention and traffic back to the app. So that's giving me some information, some high-level context, but then it's also pulling me back into the Facebook app. Great example of this is when you're out and about and you bump into somebody and go, oh, do you remember me? It's like, oh, right. You're that woman I work with whose name I totally got wrong for like a bunch of months. It's so great to see you again. I'm so sorry about that. So that's like a real life example of a push notification. In-app messages, on the other hand, those are displayed while the user's using your app. They drive interaction and discovery within the app. I think the most common example of this that folks are used to today is you'll download an app, you'll use it for a little while, and then you'll get this little prompt that says, would you like to rate this app? Yes, no, or don't ask me again. And it's an example of an in-app message. It's not sophisticated, but it gives you a sense of that. A real life example of this is, somebody kind of showing you a great new menu option at a restaurant maybe you haven't been to. Oh, have you tried the firecracker shrimp? Oh no, that sounds like really good. I should give that a shot. So this is an example of sort of a real life in-app message. So now we're going to dive into some of the things that make push messaging be really successful. A couple of things to note: about 68% of smartphones have push notifications enabled. We expect this is only going to go up as iOS rolls out with the new version. Push notifications are going to be turned on by default in all apps. Another thing that we know, and I'm certainly guilty of this, 44% of cell phone users have slept with their phones so they don't miss a notification. I just moved. I'm sleeping on an air mattress until I get a bed this evening. My cell phone was literally on the pillow next to me. Now, please don't judge. I am into apps that much, but that's just a consequence of I don't want to miss out on anything. I don't want it to get lost, and I don't want to miss anything important from work or from my personal life. And so with that in mind, this is a super powerful tool. I've got that phone in my pocket. I'm literally sleeping looking at it. It's powerful if you do it right. So in the first best practice, we want to think through push notifications. You want to make it easy to subscribe, both to get into the messaging and to get out. And so just a couple do's and don'ts here. You want to always ask your users to opt in. You want to be transparent about the types, and you want to give some high-level information about the benefits of subscribing. So in this example, what we see here, we want to receive push notifications. It gives me a little bit of a pitch. I think this is probably a B example. I think what we're seeing in this space especially is it's not just I'm either in or I'm out of subscription with push notifications. I'm looking at any individual piece of information I can get from your app, and I'm turning those on and off to curtail to my communication preferences. ESPN is a great example. I want information about the Bruins, the Red Sox, and rugby. I don't care about women's tennis or basketball at all. So I receive push notifications about the things that are important to me, and I've turned them off for everything else. So, and then the sort of complement to this is make it easy for me to adjust those preferences. It's not because I don't like you, it's because I'm trying to make sure that your app is giving me the most valuable content in the best way possible. So best practice number 2, you want to create user segments. So just like the peeps that we see at the bottom here, you want to group folks based on important characteristics. So what's important? Is it the type of content that I'm consuming in your app? Is it the time of day I'm using your app? Is it the things that I'm maybe not doing inside of your app? Maybe I've never taken advantage of a particular new piece of functionality that is available in your app. And then you want to target those push notifications to those right segments. So if I've never engaged with the sharing functionality in your app, maybe you send me a push notification to encourage me to share. Or maybe if like in the ESPN example, I've said explicitly, these are the things I like. That's probably the things that you want to send me a push notification about. What you don't want to do, and the fastest way to get push notifications turned off, is do a one-size-fits-all. In the email world, I think some folks have referred to this as sort of spray and pray. You don't want to do that in push. The phone is literally next to my head while I'm asleep. If you wake me up once, maybe that's not a big deal if it's a really compelling offer. If you wake me up every 17 minutes, I can guarantee you at the 18th minute, your app is no longer on my phone and your brand has lost all value with me. So keep that in mind. You don't want to have a one-size-fits-all strategy. In terms of the messaging itself, you want to use personalized, actionable language. So you want to use some language that conveys urgency. Compel me to do something. You're trying to get me back into your app. It's almost like you're a person on a boardwalk selling something. You got to get me through the door first. You want to clearly state that offer with some action steps. You want to give me, again, you're kind of compelling me to get moving. And then finally, you want to personalize that message based on user segments. So in this case, this is a great example that we see here at the bottom of the screen. All Nike full zip hoodies are now 25% off. Check it out. That's compelling. It's giving me some information about what I need to do. It doesn't say, some of the merchandise may be on sale. Check it out if you want to. That's not really going to get me anywhere. What could take this to the next level, and it's certainly a best practice if you can do it, is if when I swiped on this and opened the app, if that took me right to the Nike full zip hoodie section. Even better if it was done right to my size. And what you don't want to do, if you can avoid it, is just bring a user to the home screen. That would be like that person to our boardwalk analogy. Person's out on the boardwalk selling this great thing, and then they walk me into the store and then walk away. Okay, well, that's cool. I wanted that thing. I don't know where to go to get that. By bringing me right to that place and talking me through all that different functionality, it's much like the push notification. I open it, it's bringing me right to that Nike hoodie. I'm much more likely to buy. I don't have to get to your home screen and then get distracted by maybe a new pair of running shoes or maybe flip-flops, or maybe I just close the app. I'm like, well, what am I doing here? So with number 4, and this ties in with the, folks always have their phone on them, be really smart about timing. You want to control it carefully. You want to use and respect local time zones. Also understand local behavioral patterns. And you want to customize the messages based on different holidays. And certainly you want to forget to expire, or you want to remember to expire the messages when they go out of date. So certainly if you send me a really cheeky message about a turkey on Thanksgiving, that's really funny. And like, I'm probably going to go to your store on Black Friday. That same message in the middle of July when I don't want to turn on my oven, probably not going to get me to go to the store. Probably not going to get me to engage with your app. I'll probably look at it and go, man, what the heck are these guys thinking? Unless you do it really funny. And if it's really funny, then maybe you pull me in. So just bear in mind, understand who you're targeting, understand when you're targeting them, and make sure that your messages are going to be relevant, either based on the holidays, the time of year, time of day, or whatever. And sort of tied in with this, and back to the example before about getting your app uninstalled when you wake me up, you want to identify the right frequency. And so there's no one right model, just like with everything that we've talked about so far today. It's not really a one size fits all approach. It's something where there's multiple different ways that you could target these. The important thing is you want to understand the impact that your notifications are having. You don't want to send them too frequently. There's a couple apps I've installed and I've literally removed them within 20 minutes because in that 20-minute period, I've got 15 push notifications. That's a few too many. When my battery's dying because of your app, that's the wrong way to get attention from it. So you want to really think about what's that right frequency for you in terms of sending those push notifications. So another part that's important in terms of the content, in terms of the timing, in terms of all of the different characteristics, you want to A/B test to see what makes the most sense. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. Folks oftentimes think about A/B testing in sort of a rudimentary fashion where I'm targeting 25% of my users with this message and 75% with that. And then hopefully I'll see a winner and apply that to a control group. You can A/B test all different sorts of elements. You can A/B test the different words that you use, the phrases, the offers, the length of the message. What we've seen some customers do here at Localytics is target certain geographies. So Providence and Portsmouth, New Hampshire, both act as good proxies for Boston. They're also smaller population. So I could run a push notification campaign to those two areas, see which one resonates better, and then apply that and bring that knowledge to a campaign that I'm running in Boston. Same thing, we've seen that with Stamford, Connecticut, and New York City. So it's beyond just looking at the message and the body of the message. It's also the timing that you're sending out, the frequency that you're sending it out, and what you're actually sending as part of that message. And the one thing that you don't want to do, don't just assume that what you've done is right or wrong. Always keep experimenting. Always keep bringing data into the discussion and figuring out what's driving either deeper engagement with your app or higher conversion rates. So the next piece of the puzzle is really, we talked about a number of different things. You want to use marketing automation here. Certainly, we've got little Wally here at the bottom. We've all been that marketing intern before where you're manually doing the mail merge and you're sending out that email. You don't want to do that with push. You want to have your users, as they come onto your app, identify who they are, get them in different campaigns, and start to nurture their behaviors and drive them down different value chains and help them get the most out of your app. And you also want to chain push messages together, make it feel a little bit more like a dialogue. If your app's constantly adding value to me, I'm going to be so much more deeply engaged with it than if you're, hitting me with 18 or 20 push notifications over the course of an evening. And you don't, and we said it at the beginning, you don't want to let manual roadblocks help, make you miss your opportunities. Oftentimes, you've got 80% of folks that install your app will maybe ever only use it once. So you've got a limited time to leave a very lasting impression. You want to do that as impactfully as possible to turn those users that maybe are a 1 or 2 time user into a power user of your application. And then how do you know that you've gotten there? And I think this is just a best practice in mobile, but specifically for push, you want to measure the metrics that matter. And certainly we've talked about a few different things earlier, especially around you want to drive folks to particular locations in your app, you're driving folks towards particular conversion events. You want to identify and track the things that are important. So what's the goal of your app? How does it fit into your brand's broader strategy? Are you trying to enable folks to maybe get from point A to point B more quickly? Or are you a catalog of all of the goods and services that your brand offers? Think about how it fits in, and that will help trickle down to the metrics that you need to be capturing, especially in terms of engagement. And you want to use app analytics to improve the marketing. So understanding who responded to which types of push notifications, and then building out segments and targeting them with different types of activity accordingly. Certainly just because I've said the Red Sox doesn't mean I just like information about just the Boston Red Sox. Maybe there's a prospect in the minor leagues that I'm interested in. I've opened articles about minor leaguers before. You could send me push notifications about that. The important thing here, and if you take nothing else away from this tip, is don't just focus on app opens. Certainly app opens are a great metric. It's super important. People are opening your app, and that in and of itself is oftentimes a milestone. But you want to keep moving beyond that and understanding, okay, great, they open the app. What do they do next? And what am I trying to drive them to do to get them to take their usage to the next level, to go from a single-time user to a multi-time user, from a multi-time user to a power user to whatever may be next. And here are just 3 stellar campaigns. And these are split out sort of by industry, but I'd encourage you to just think through. There's applications for a lot of these in a variety of different verticals. The first is for e-commerce or m-commerce or brick and click apps, and it's around limited time deals based on hobbies. So this is a great example, and we see in the center of the screen here, it's a 1-day flash sale, 50% off sportswear. Shop now. It conveys urgency. It makes me feel like I'm part of something special. I've got this offer. It's for me. It targets what I'm doing in the app. I'm an athlete. I play rugby, training for some different activities. Sportswear is definitely right up my alley. And then there's that call to action, shop now. Now, this is a great push because it's hitting all of those different things, and it's targeted towards me. If this said, multi-month sale on knitting supplies, shop when you feel like it, that's not me. If I got that, I would really wonder, what does this app know about me? But this is applicable across a number of different verticals when you're talking about these different elements. Make me feel special. Make me feel like I'm starting a dialogue with your app. Give me a really clear call to action and target it based on my behavior, and also give me a sense of urgency. Give me a nudge. Don't just walk me to the door. Walk me to the door and walk me right up to the product that I'm looking at, or the functionality you want me to take advantage of. The second is with fitness apps, and this is to keep users on track. And I think that this example is applicable for anything where there's any type of goal setting or I'm rewarded for being engaged in your app. In this fitness app, it says, hey, you're only 3 miles away from reaching your goal this week. Keep it up. Like a personal trainer, like a friendly personal trainer, not an angry boot camp personal trainer. This is keeping me engaged, and it's helping me work towards my goals. It's using the tool of push to help motivate me and keep me accountable. I've set some goals. Let's keep me after that. And certainly with a financial app, anything where you're doing budgeting or anything where maybe there's a time component of it, these are different types of apps that could take advantage of this. So you could send out something like, you've almost saved for that new car, for that great Hawaii vacation. You're only $500 away, or whatever it may be. And that's going to be like, I'm going to get that. I'm going to, yeah, no, that's really good. You know what? I'm actually not going to go out for drinks with my coworkers after work. I'm going to just, I'm going to go home because I'm really close to hitting that goal. So it's going to keep me on track with what I'm trying to do. Just like with the fitness app. I've only got 3 miles to go. It's a nice day out today here in Boston. I may have to go for a run after work instead of not. And then something for all apps that's important is to highlight new features. Assume I'm in the minority because I actually read release notes. I know, I don't know, I'm weird, but I'm an app marketing expert, so it comes with the territory. But most folks don't. With iOS 7, they allowed apps to start to auto update. On Android, that's been par for the course for a while. So users aren't really necessarily aware of what's new in the version of it. They may not even be aware that your app updated. Well, that's cool. I mean, you just put a bunch of time in this new release. Wouldn't it be great if they took advantage of that new functionality? You can do that in the app. That relies on them engaging with the app, opening the app, and then hopefully discovering wherever you've put that first run experience. You could also kind of be a little bit more direct about it. Some great new functionality. In this, even better if you do this by deep linking into the app. So right here we've got, did you know you can see friends' hotel ratings? Check it out. Did you know you can now share to LinkedIn? Whatever that functionality may be, highlight it, bring it out there, and give me a compelling, reason to go explore your app. And then even better, if you say something like, check it out or come see it today, and I swipe and I'm in that functionality with a great first run experience, now I'm like deeply engaged in your app. I'm going to take advantage of that feature, and you've piqued my interest, and now I'm going to play around with it. Versus again, hey Rich, we updated our app, come check it out. It's not really that compelling. So just a couple key takeaways here for you guys. Push messages, just remember, they drive app traffic. They get folks using inside of your app. They happen outside of the app, so they're loud, but they're pulling me back in. And they've got a really simple format, so you're somewhat limited in what you can do with these today. So now we're going to change gears and we're going to talk a little bit about in-app messaging. And just as a recap, as we said at the beginning, in-app messages, they're displayed while users actively using your app, and they drive interaction and discovery within your app. So the difference here being I'm actually using your app while I'm seeing this message, hence the term, in-app messaging. So step number one, and sort of the best practice, and this is really a marketing best practice, but it's equally important here. You want to find the right user segments. So you want to identify the key attributes that your users should share, and you want to segment out that ideal audience. And this could happen on a couple different dimensions. The first dimension is really just the behavioral aspect of things. So understanding that different groups of users behave differently. There's another aspect of it that you don't necessarily consider when you think about push. There's also the when in my usage of the app do I want to respond to this message? So it's something to keep in mind when you're thinking about the way to segment different groups of users. What you don't want to do is you want to build out sort of just these wild in-app messages that don't target specific groups. I'm using your app, I'm engaged with it, I'm taking time out of my day to make your brand a part of what I'm up to. Be respectful of that and make it specific and tailored maybe to something that I like. It should be a Red Sox in-app message instead of something about, we said, women's tennis before. Another element of this, and this ties in with that timing standpoint, is you want to analyze your funnels. I think a common misconception, just more broadly about funnels, a lot of folks think about funnels, it's an e-commerce thing. It's just it's a sign-up funnel. I don't have any funnels in my app. I would encourage you to reconsider. Funnels can show the relationships between any set of interactions that you have in your app. And when you look at funnels and you start to look at funnels in the context of in-app messaging, you can pinpoint the exact important steps that your users are doing. You can see how they move through that funnel, and then you can target the correct message to get them over the hump. Maybe it's after 9 articles, that's the right time to ask them to become a subscriber. Maybe it's after 2 days away from the shopping cart, that's the right time to send them an in-app message around a promo offer. Maybe it's after I've streamed 15 minutes of content, that's the right time to get me to upgrade. But you've got a variety of opportunities here, so really do look at that funnel and try to understand exactly where folks are falling off. What you don't want to do is create campaigns that just have no conversion event. They don't correspond to any of these different steps, and they're just sort of, you're doing it just to see what happens. Again, it's back to the email pray and spray example. Another best practice here, much like what we saw with push, is you want to create a personalized offer. And so that can mean a lot of different things, but you want to really spend some time thinking about the offer and then thinking about all of the conversion steps that lead to that point. You want to align it with the right audience, and you want to integrate it into the funnel. You don't want to make it feel intrusive or unnatural. I'm using your app. I'm engaged with it. Give me something, compel me to keep using it. Give me something that's going to get me over the hump. Remember, I've got a credit. Wow, that's right, I've got that. Let me shop right now. Take advantage of that. Now, if I didn't have a credit, that would be super weird and it would feel very unnatural. As part of that, you want to really write compelling content. With in-app messages, you have a lot more flexibility than what you do with push. These are taking place inside their usage of the app. So you can make this really look and feel like part of your application. And some of these are similar to what we saw with push, but it's important to, again, you want to speak to the benefits. You want to make the value add super, super clear. And you want to use actionable language. You don't want to make it too long. I don't want to be reading size 4 font on my iPhone, just full disclosure. This is a great example here from, it looks like this is a newspaper. They're improving the experience. You can go and update the application now. It's really clear to me what I'm going to get, some new experience. It looks really cool. This copy fits in with what they've got. I'm going to take action on this. And again, really clear call to action. Don't make me have to guess. Make it highly visual, convey that same set of urgency. You don't want to make that button too small to click. I have really big fingers. If I accidentally close it, who knows if I'm going to come back. And that was your one, a chance to make a great impression on me. Just like we said with the notification, you want to incorporate those visual elements of your brand. Make it look and feel like it's part of your application. You want to maintain that brand identity. You can experiment a little bit with the visuals, but you don't want to make it look like an ad. This is something that shouldn't be intrusive. It shouldn't be interruptive. This should be a pleasurable experience that's going to help me get to that next step in the conversion funnel. You don't want to have it feel like this is just, you're hitting me with an ad because, I'm like a marketing resource to you. You want me to take that to the next level. And again, much like we talked about before, you want to use some marketing automation tools here. So with this, you want to get those new users enrolled into campaigns, whether it's some new user nurture or something where it's a first run experience, or maybe it's a check-in to provide some feedback. And you also want to chain messages together and start to think about how campaigns relate. Maybe I'm receiving in-app messages because I didn't respond to push notifications. It's totally a valid way to start to engage with me. But again, we don't want to let those manual roadblocks slow down the ability to drive conversions here. And then, much like we saw before, A/B test. This isn't an exact science. I wish it was. I wouldn't be an app marketing expert if it was. What you want to do is you want to try out all different kinds of combinations. Timing, layout, content, creative, positioning of the different messages. Try all different sorts of things. What you don't want to do is fail to get those additional insights by not changing things. Sometimes something as simple as changing the positioning of a banner can help improve the conversion rate. Sometimes it's more nuanced. And then another best practice here is, like we saw before, measure and repeat. You want to measure all the campaigns. You don't just want to sort of run it once and see what happens and then not really try to adjust anything based on that. And you want to track the important metrics. You want to understand how many folks are clicking through, how many folks are taking conversion events, and then finally understanding what their behavior looks like for the long term. What you don't want to do is sort of have app analytics in one silo, app marketing in a separate silo, and then everything else in another silo. You want all that data to inform each other and feed each other and start to close the loop. So it's something where having all that data in one place allows you to really make better decisions and make smarter decisions based on different elements. So here's just a couple examples of in-app messages. And again, these are sort of broken out by different industries or verticals, but I think they're applicable across a lot of different spaces. So the first is for bricks and clicks folks, for those m-commerce and e-commerce apps, giving folks coupons after viewing a product. So this is something I think we've all done. I've looked at, Lord knows how much. I just moved into a new apartment, so I'm looking at range hoods. It's my new shopping thing. What we know about folks is consumers are 10 times more likely to redeem a mobile coupon than a print coupon. Now that's kind of an interesting fact. So if we know I'm in the home improvement store and I get a push notification, I could open that up to an in-app message with a mobile coupon. That's a pretty compelling scenario. So you can do that in the app as well. But again, here we see I'm looking at a pair of shoes. I don't think I'd ever wear shoes that color. It wouldn't match my eyes. But you want to have some really concise text to communicate the offer. Again, I don't want to be reading size 4 font on my iPhone. Really clear call to action. It's big, it's bold, redeem offer. I like that. I think that's something I want to do. I like to redeem offers. It makes me feel like a redeemer. It's triggered based on my behavior. So I just looked at these shoes. And if I was really interested in these shoes and you've seen me look at those before, well, it's probably the right time to trigger it when I look at those shoes for the 4th time. And then this looks and feels like part of my app. The colors align, the fonts align, everything's pretty much on brand. I don't feel like I'm getting an ad. I feel like, hey, I've done this kind of cool thing. Now I'm going to get this special offer. We can take this to the next level by making it a little bit more visually appealing, rounding out the corners and things like that. But certainly this gives you an idea of a way to generate something that would be a sort of a great offer for me. So this is a good one for travel apps. It's good for anyone that's got sign-in. So it's sort of coming up with rewards and letting folks understand what they get for signing in or signing up. So here we see this cool travel app, really compelling. Do this thing, get these rewards, right? I get the benefit, okay, great, so I earn rewards. What are those for? Oh, all right, cool, free flights. I like free flights. And then simple actionable call to action. I can hit that button. I can hit that button if I'm like looking at different travel and all that. I can do that really easily. And this is important across the board. And I think any app where I have the option to sign in, but I'm not necessarily required to, there's an opportunity for this sort of in-app message. And maybe it's based on behavior, or maybe it's based on the number of times I've done something. So maybe if I've used your app more than 10 times in the past month, I've never signed in, I've never created an account, maybe encourage me to do it. Maybe I don't even know what I'm missing. Like I said, moving to a new apartment, using the IKEA website. It's a great example of a mobile catalog. Going through the website, adding stuff to my shopping list. Now they take it to the extreme. Every time you add something to their shopping list, they want you to sign up as an IKEA family member or whatever that is. I'm not going to do that because it's IKEA. But again, every time I add something to my shopping list, I know what I'm foregoing by not signing in. If it struck the right balance, if it was a little bit more compelling, if they said, take 10% off your order of $1,000, now I'm really interested in signing in and signing up. Now I'm in and I'm signed up and I've actually just ordered everything that's on that list instead of renting a U-Haul and driving down to IKEA when I feel like it. And I think for all apps, it's really important to get feedback from your users. And I think almost every app out there, if you go on any of the sort of GitHub or Stack Overflow, or even if you just Google, app rating code snippets, there's hundreds of thousands of ways to do this, and in my opinion, they're almost all terrible. I will use an app 3 times, maybe for a combined 27 seconds, and I'll get asked to rate it. Am I qualified to rate an app I've used for 27 seconds? Maybe, most likely not. In-app messaging allows you to get really smart about who you target, and what you really want to think about is thinking about ways to get users who are going to rate you really highly, and you want them to get the word out there. And folks who are going to rate you maybe less than favorably, you want them to get the word to the right people in your organization. You don't want to get that feedback on the iTunes or the Google Play store. So with this is an example of a Net Promoter Score survey. The idea behind this is really just, how likely are you to recommend our service, good, whatever it may be, to a friend or a colleague? The user of the survey would rate 0 to 10, 10 being like I'm super likely, 0 being like never gonna happen, and in the middle being, in between. What you can start to do or see with this is you can start to build out some logic around this where promoters can be nurtured further to rate the app. So maybe if I rate this 10, a couple days later I get an in-app message encouraging me to rate. If I rate this a 0, maybe the next thing that opens up is some free-form text entry that goes to our product management team. Or maybe it's a list of the next 7 features that are on my roadmap and I can weigh in on that. But no matter what you're doing, this doesn't need to be like a census survey. It doesn't need to be like, if in school you had the little, did you have those, the little Scantrons?
Yeah.
Yeah, you fill those out, and like don't make it that, right? You 2 or 3 questions, easy peasy lemon squeezy. You want this to be something that's just simple for folks to do. So I answer the survey, start to do different things based on that. If I've rated negatively because I say your sign-in experience is bad, when you change your sign-in experience, send me an in-app message, send me a push notification. If I rate highly, thank me, invite me to join the beta program, but use this as another channel to get information about your users. So just a couple key takeaways about in-app messaging. In-app messages can help you drive discovery and interaction. So it can get you to take some action on some things. They happen inside of the app. So they're as subtle as the usage of the app is itself. And they have a rich and interactive design. And with this, you want to be really mindful about that because it's a very powerful tool. If I've chosen to spend some of my time engaging with your app, it's something where that's precious. So nurture me along. So that's enough about sort of where we are today. Change gears here a little bit and talk about the future of mobile engagement. So there's a couple different things coming down the pipe. Certainly with Android, there's some things we're seeing with Android L. There's going to be richer push notifications. Android's always had a pretty rich push infrastructure compared to iOS, and I think iOS is a bit behind there. But what we're seeing with Android is this ability to have richer push. So here we see the recently canceled Nokia Moto X or whatever it is. But in this, I can respond to this message. I can let this, I can call this woman back. I can send her a message right from within here. So there's images, it could be icons, it could be any number of different things. They're going to be more interactive. So it's essentially, it's allowing me to do more. It's like a window into your app without having to get there in a weird way. It's almost like a shortcut on your desktop for some specific functionality. And now, this adds just a whole nother dimension of A/B testing to sort of layer on top of it. We could try, maybe we put the image on the left, the right, we try different font sizes and combinations, different action positioning. And certainly as Android L matures and as that ecosystem evolves, there'll be best practices that come out, but it'll be a fun time to experiment for those of us in this space. So with Apple, I think a lot of folks were excited about what they saw at Worldwide Developer Conference. With iOS 8 coming out this fall, push notifications are turned on by default. It's something that Apple has shied away from because it distracts from the experience. I think they've finally come around to all of my ranting and raving that there's a ton of value that push messages can provide. They're also, like Android had done a while ago, really allowing interactive push notifications. So I can respond quickly to a message here. I could take a quick action. I could check out, like, or favorite something from my lock screen. And like we said, there's a whole level of new potential of what push is capable of on iOS that wasn't there in previous iterations. And then there's also this whole group or this whole world of proximity awareness. And there's a couple different avenues of that. The first is around geofencing. So this is, I'm walking by a sushi restaurant and I can see, okay, great. These are the things that are really good. I don't eat sushi, so I don't really know what the Superman roll is. It sounds kind of awesome though. Or the surprisingly cheap, I don't know if I'd want to eat cheap sushi. That seems a little suspicious, but neither here nor there. I'm walking, I'm near the sushi restaurant. I get this notification about cheap sushi. I look at it and go, oh, hey, this is actually really cool. I was meaning to try the Superman roll. I walk in and now I'm engaged, and I'm engaged with the brand. The other aspect of this, and so that's sort of at a broader level, and you'd set up a geofence around like a restaurant or a store or a storefront or something like that. iBeacons are hyper local. Very, very short range. We're talking in, tens of feet or tens of meters. I went to public school in them, so.
Thanks.
So it's, tens of meters. It's very, very close, hyper aware, location-based things. So this is, I'm walking through the home improvement store and I hit the end cap of the aisle that has those, that has that range hood that I've been looking for. Something appears on my phone, offering me a discount or a promotion on that range hood that they know I've been looking at. I walk past a particular location at a theme park and I get a notification. Now this works as well because apps can begin engaging with these. So when I get near a particular location, make this sort of thing happen. It's an exciting space, and it's something that I think there's a lot of untapped potential here. And I think another aspect of engagement is really personalization. So I think today we're sort of evolving this world from where there's analytics and there's marketing and those worlds sort of collide. There's also this notion of there's other data sources out there. So user profiles, understanding what different types of folks have been up to, and then engaging with them based on that. Sort of a big fancy word for what we talked about before with segments, but sort of looking at a user across not just one segment, but a number of different segments of what they're a part of and engaging with them accordingly. Also engaging with that user in particular because we know that this particular user ID is tied to Jim, and we know that Jim is married to Pam. And we know that Pam likes flowers. So this is a great notification to send to Jim on his anniversary. And congratulations to Jim, it's been 3 years. We all love Pam. So one other element of this too, when you start to develop that user profile, now Anum is Anum everywhere she goes. Everywhere that she's interacting with your brand, she's the same person. She's not this mobile user and that web user and this other person in store. She's all one person, which means let's actually target her in a multi-channel way. When she's engaging with your mobile app, she's seeing the same types of information that she's seeing on the website. She's getting the same type of promo offers when she redeems rewards with her point of sale, loyalty card. And then also when she's engaging on your tablet, she's seeing the same sorts of things. So it's giving that multi-channel approach and bringing that profile information and that intelligence to all of the different places where she's touching your brand. So, I think the key takeaway here is mobile is going to change. It's moving very, very quickly. But there's a couple things that are going to remain true. No matter how crazy and wild mobile gets, when we're getting heads up notifications over our eyeballs or whatever may happen, the best practices of any time you're going to engage with these users are going to remain the same. You really, really always want to target a segmented audience. You never want to target everybody. Very, very rarely do you want to do that. And you want to give those users a targeted offer. Show them that you know who they are and what they're up to. You want to be very careful about the timing. Just think about me. I'm literally, my phone is on the pillow next to me. Please don't wake me up. And how do you come up with what to show them and when to do it? You test lots of different varieties of things. You try different combinations of timing and messaging and collateral and creative, and you give all of those different things, you throw them in a pot and you try a bunch of different varieties. And then you measure and improve what works and you get rid of what doesn't. And then why do you want to do this? You want to drive conversions. And whether that's getting people to try the Superman role, whether it's getting more people to take advantage of a particular offer that you've got, or whether it's just to drive deeper engagement with your application. But you always want to have a goal in mind. You're not just doing it because it's a cool technology, although certainly that's a valid reason.